And when you feel ready, let's settle in for 10 minutes or so of comfortable sitting. As usual, we stack our bodies up from the chair or from the ground up. Sitting at a comfortable height, and then allowing our backs to release a little bit by swaying forward at the hip joint, allowing the weight to fall just in front of the sitting bones. Softening your spine, softening your shoulders, crown of the head floating upward. With every exhalation, allowing your body to open and release a little bit further. With every inhalation, your mind grows even more quiet, your emotions further calm, deepening a sense of peace. When your mind wanders away, simply soften around the distraction and allow your awareness to settle back into the present moment. Sometimes that's difficult if your mind is particularly wound up from a life filled with tension. And as we soften the grip that we have around the mind, you might find that it runs around like crazy for a little while. And that's actually okay. That's part of the reason we begin this way. Allowing that little wind-up toy to simply wear itself down, not investing in the thoughts, not adding to the feelings, not running away from them or pushing them away. In the same way that people that have a lot of shoulder tension, when they first begin to release that tension, sometimes their shoulders go into a kind of jerking spasm as blood flows into an area that hasn't been nourished for quite a long time, or the nervous system is trying to learn how to let go. And that too is perfectly normal. Our job is to simply continue to relax and to allow it to do what it needs to do to heal. Not to continually repeat the same mistake that got it tight in the first place. One more moment of comfortable breathing, allowing the mind to slow down. The whole body releasing. Nourishing your scalp as best you can with your current haircut. Easing open that space just beneath the skin. And as a reminder, I know that there are some people watching that are brand new to this particular set. And for those of you who are confused about what we are doing, down below this video is a link to an introductory video that I made teaching this particular practice. You might find it much easier to follow that once or twice, and then join us in the live feed. allowing that sense of warmth and aliveness to soak in, filling that space beneath the skin. Allowing that sense of warmth and goodwill to soak in to the tissues, warming and bringing alive that very vascular space just beneath the surface of the skin. Always letting go of anything that you're hanging on to in between movements so that you don't carry any tension from one to the next.
So for this movement, just in case anyone else can relate, I notice that when I'm tucking my lips, I don't know if tucking is the right word, but you know what I mean. I create a lot of tension in my jaw. Like I realize that I'm tucking a little too hard. And so I don't know if anybody else is doing that, but I know we're trying to do the opposite.
That's right.
So I just thought I'd mention.
That's a really worthwhile thing. So in case you couldn't quite hear, when we're doing this movement, that we tend to pull our lips in slightly to expose these points that we are working on just beneath the nose and just beneath the lips here, make it a bit easier to move across. And Mel was saying that she tends to grip a little bit too hard and it causes tension in her face instead of softness. And so the answer for that is don't do that. Stay soft as best you can.
Thank you.
Sure. No, it's a great thing to mention. Mel always has a lot to say.
Definitely not true.
Definitely true. Back me up. I think we skipped ironing the eyes. That's very silly. Are you getting lots of messages?
No.
Today is Melanie's birthday. So if people would like to wish her a happy birthday. Are there points just below the collarbone in line with the armpits on either side of the sternum? Yes. Do you mean this line here, just above the breast line? Yeah, there's a number of points all the way across. But even where there aren't acupuncture points that are useful for needles and such, all of these areas are covered with planes of influence, blood flow, fascial lines, sinew lines, these kinds of things. And they're all just at different levels of depth. And we want to relate to all of them. This set, of course, mostly works on that softening line of the fascia, which is interconnected everywhere, which is why we're focusing a little bit on acupoints, but usually just because those are crossover points where, that joints where things cross and mix and lines of muscle cross and points of tension tend to occur. And so we're relieving those points. But for the most part, any area where you feel that there's a kind of binding or it just feels really good to soften and release at that relatively superficial layer, that's a really good thing to do. And I thought today that we would focus on the shoulders, since yesterday we worked on the neck. And just as a quick reminder, the shoulder isn't just this line of joint here. The shoulder is this whole connecting, moving part that floats all around on top of the rib cage that runs like the circle on my shirt here, through here. All of this is the shoulder. And the only point where it actually connects the skeletal system is here. So all of this is one flowing, moving piece. The front is here. It attaches to the sternum, all of this under here, all the parts that Steph is asking about. And when this is tight, it pulls the shoulder out of shape. And so we have to release this in order for the shoulder to function. The same thing on the back side of the shoulder that attaches to the spine and rolls around on top of the rib cage. When that's tight, it also inhibits the movement of the shoulder. The top of the shoulder, clearly, when it's held up, it attaches all in through here. We have to soften that for the shoulder to function. But also down here, attaching to the ribs, to the spine, when that's pulling down, it also does not allow the shoulder to function. So all four of these ends of the shoulder, so to speak, have to be released and released that way. Of course, this joint itself needs to remain soft. And also all of this movement has to travel outward toward the elbow. So you can see if I suck my shoulder in, it inhibits movement. And then if I release it outward toward my elbow, softening it long, then suddenly there's far more movement available. So we consider the elbow, the direction of the elbow, the outer edge of the shoulder. And all of these must be released and relieved, allowed to move in order for shoulder function to happen correctly. And so as we soften here, have that sense of a release of the local area, but also releasing the movement and length of the shoulder down toward the elbow and the fingertips. We'll spend a little bit of extra time around the shoulders today and points that are good for the shoulders. And yes, absolutely, that includes breast health, in case that's an important thing back to hold that weight. And so what we want to help relieve all of that held tension as well, as best you can. The bottom corner of the shoulder, including where it connects to some of the ribs down here and deep into the armpit, staying soft. Spending a bit of extra time, finding your way around. If you can reach comfortably without causing too much shoulder tension, you might even feel slightly toward the back under here. But again, that depends on your body type. And the tops of the shoulders, easing them open, softening everything toward the elbow, releasing from the ear. Remember to allow this movement to be gentle and soft. The weight of your hand sinking just beneath the surface of the skin on top of the musculature. You're not trying to penetrate deeper than the fascial layer. Allow your intention and your attention to rest in this relatively superficial layer, spreading out through those tissues. Softening points on the lung channel tends to help release this line of holding pattern in through here. Releasing the large intestine line tends to help soften this part of the shoulder up and through here. Even helps release the top of the shoulder a bit. So as you're softening into these points, the arm that is doing the softening, make sure that you're not adding tension here. As well, the arm that's receiving, be careful that you're not bracing the arm with tension to try to relax the shoulder. Instead, find a way to release and allow your arm to rest as you soften it. Sometimes it's really nice to have a big pillow or something that you can rest your arms on as you do these movements. Oh, thank you. The sun came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
It is. Somehow we find ourselves living in a fairyland. By softening this pericardium channel, it helps again to release this line in the arm, which some people can find tension in at the level of the armpits across the chest. And as we soften the point on the back of the hand, the triple warmer point, this of course extends up and helps to soften more the back of the shoulder. The heart that starts in the armpit helps to release and ease tension that can often be found there. We're also here touching this small intestine channel that runs through the shoulder blade and helps to relieve the back of the shoulder tension. So by softening all the way down the arm, we are continuing to help release this line that tends to hold and keep us stuck in our shoulder joint. Softening the base of the thumb. This whole line here. Hey, Allie. Welcome. Allie is being a chauffeur. We are happy to have you. And then softening LI4, small intestine 3. These 2 points together, by softening this way down the arm, help to continually open both the front and the back of the shoulder. And then gently releasing each of the fingers. And then moving to the other shoulder. Again, being aware of the front, the top, the bottom, and the back sides of the shoulders. Feeling all of this movement release down toward the elbow, toward the hands. A little bit of extra release today. Take your time. All the way up under the collarbones, all of this space. Remember that the shoulder only connects to the skeleton here at this little joint. So you want to soften all around here. Doesn't have to require pressure. Just allow your intention to do soaking in. Be kind and present. Softening all the way down here where the lats connect to the ribs and down to the spine. You want to allow those to release. And these, of course, release upward and outward along the arm. The ribs spread open comfortably. We'll do more work on them a bit later. Softening this fascial line all the way up from below the ear, base of the neck, top part of this collarbone. And again, feeling it softening outward toward the hands. Softening the shoulder joint itself, as far around the arm as you can release comfortably. The function of releasing the shoulder toward this part of the elbow is a kind of lengthening outward. You want this distance and this distance to move away from each other. Everything softens long. Rather than shortening toward the joint, it releases outward toward the fingers. And then softening lung 5. Easing open the elbow. Softening the lung channel to release this front aspect of the shoulder. Softening the large intestine points, all down here along the forearm, one at a time, allowing this to soften the front top of the shoulder. As though your arm is getting longer because you are allowing all of those tight, contracted spaces to open. pericardium 6, in between those tendons. Softening the front of the shoulder. And then triple warmer 5 on the back of the wrist, helping to soften the rear and top of the shoulder. As a reminder to not hold back and grip as you move, but instead to allow this movement to lengthen your arm. There's no need to brace. If you need to, you can always settle your arm onto something in order to avoid gripping it. More and more comfortable. And then softening the heart, small intestine, easing open the space beneath the arm, as well as the shoulder blade. Both release through. Large intestine 4, softening open the front of the shoulder, the top. Small intestine 3, softening the shoulder blade down the back. Easing both open. Feeling that sense of warmth going to the fingertips, remembering that there are no muscles in the fingers, and so you have to soften your palm and help blood flow get to the fingertips. It's a hydraulic movement, not a muscular press.
Your favorite?
My favorite. Secretly my favorite. Let's take a little bit of extra time for this one. Make sure that your hand softens all the way around the shoulder joint and then back down. The intention here is to release the shoulder. Release the shoulder. Don't tighten it or pick it up. Your arm is getting longer with every repetition.
Yeah, I noticed my low back tightens when I try to lift the opposite hand to rub down the arm. And so the shoulder blade has no place to sink. I think if I have that right.
If your back is tightening, that's
Yeah.
right. If your lower back in particular,
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, there's all of these funny lines of connections in the body that if you want your shoulder blade to be able to soften down your back, it's very important for you to begin to loosen your lower back. And the more you soften your lower back, then the more space there is for your shoulder blade to sink until this release of the shoulder down the back can actually be quite a large movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning because I know in the past for me, I couldn't understand why it felt like I was softening my shoulder, but it wouldn't actually soften, it wouldn't release. And it wasn't until sometime later that I found out, oh, it's because there's no space in the low back.
That makes a lot of sense.
So.
Yeah. No, that's such good advice. Nice. I'm going to be right back. If you don't mind telling them a little bit more of that story. How about softening your back to soften your shoulder?
Yeah, at least for me, that was something that, like, it's something I'm still working on. It's taking years to release all of the tension in my low back. Because there's a tendency to shorten it, and I'm sure everyone's familiar with that curve that most of us have in our low back. And when that tension is softened, that curve becomes not entirely straight, but straighter, less concave, if that makes sense. And anyway, yeah, it's just been really interesting to see, like John said, how all of these different parts of the body relate to each other and kind of depend on each other, in a sense, to operate as a whole.
That's really true.
Yeah. Good. Steph says, I really struggle with this one. I just do a couple because I feel tension doing it. Yeah, me too, Steph. I think maybe I can do 2 or 3 before I start to feel a lot of tension in my shoulders and low back.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, maybe that's why I struggle with releasing the shoulders too, because I have a lot of tension in my low back.
That's right.
Yeah, if your body is anything like mine, that could absolutely be why.
Right. Well, especially when you're carrying a little bit of extra weight in the front.
Absolutely.
I was carrying around a basket all the time. Some of the difficulty also ends up that these 2 points of tension reinforce each other. Because if I try to lift my arm and my arm is stiff because I can't soften my shoulder blade, then the tendency is to do this. And I feel like my hand is going up when really it's my back collapsing. And so people go like this to get their hand up high and then back down. And so they end up tightening their lower back, which ends up obstructing the shoulders that they're trying to soften. And so that's one of the gifts of something like standing posture that's allowing you to soften everything all at once. Or practices like this that are emphasizing just gentle opening, because there isn't any of that momentum that we're trying to use our back to brace against or things like that. But it's certainly a common experience. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph. We appreciate your struggle. Healing the next generation, one happy baby at a time. By being one happy mama at a time. Softening all of this, remember that the front of the shoulder connects all through here. So as we soften this line, we're warming and releasing all of these connective lines, softening down. And then the solar plexus. You can use your fingers, your palm, base of your thumb, whatever is most comfortable. Remember that the emotions that tend to collect in this area and cause it to freeze are healed through kindness, gentleness, friendliness, a kind of effortlessness.
I'm gonna go lay down.
Thank you for joining.
This side just kind of went down.
Oh. Better to be careful.
Yeah, just in case.
You holler if you need anything.
Alrighty. Bye.
And then the space between the solar plexus and the navel. Warming and releasing. As your awareness soaks into that fascial layer, that space that's open between the muscle and the skin, where the qi and the blood flows and around all of the various thick tissues that are easier to feel. You might feel things spreading out and opening up. Here again, the shoulder itself connects down to the ribs, all the way down. All of this tissue that tightens against the spine can freeze the shoulder. So we want to release the spaces between the ribs, warming and softening them. Remember that qi carries intention and information. So we are including in this effort to release a sense of kindness, gentleness, friendliness, generosity of spirit, body acceptance in those areas of your body that have been not treated very well by you psychologically. Letting everything go. Softening your breath. For many people, this is an area that has soaked up a lot of negativity over the years. Please be gentle and kind, connecting to your body, letting everything soften and open, and just be as it is. What an important message to pass on to the future generations. It's okay to be ourselves. Allowing your awareness to soak in beneath the skin, but also deeper for this one, inclusive of your internal organs and all of the fascial lining holding us together in the abdomen. Softening open, allowing the breath to be free. A few breaths of meditation, allowing your mind to become still and centered. Easing open all of these lines here. As we discussed, there is a strong connection between tension in the back, creating a kind of deformed space here that doesn't allow the shoulders to soften. So we want as much as possible to allow the back to soften. From the outside, it begins to look flat, just because of the way the muscles thicken and lay against the spine. And this quality of softness as we release here allows the shoulders to soften down the back. Being especially gentle with your shoulders today. If you need to use the backs of your hands, that's completely fine. Maybe you prefer to use one hand at a time. But allow your shoulders to stay soft and your back to remain soft as you practice. There is a connection biomechanically between the hips and the functionality of the shoulders. Often by softening the hips, people find that their shoulders become more free. And very often when I'm doing acupuncture, if somebody has a lot of shoulder pain, I will actually treat their hips instead, and they will find a lot of relief from that. And so by softening this area, for instance, this spot in here is analogous to this location on top of the shoulder. And so you allow this to soften open. Gentle and free, soft. easing open these points right in the very center. And again, I can see from the count on here that we have a lot of people watching. I'm not sure if this is your first time here or not. In case you are new to this set, please do check down below the video for the introductory lesson that I link to make it easier for you to learn this set, so you don't feel like you have to jump in right in the middle of the class and figure out what we're doing. Softening just above the knees on the outside, easing them open. Yeah, I had big plans for Mel's birthday, but then she woke up feeling sick. So most of them ended up doing lots of cooking of her favorite foods that I have all prepped downstairs, and set her up with some good movies to sit in bed. I have a new ring for her for our weekly marriage celebration. Softening this whole area here. Easing it open. Remember that your shoulders are remaining soft. It's very easy to start hunching up or tensing up to create something. You end up creating leverage against your own joints, which of course causes them to freeze. Instead, see if you can allow the movement to come from deeper within your body and go through your shoulder to these points, rather than pushing here and bracing against your shoulder, which is very common. As well, the space behind the knee. Wonderful spot to soften the lower back, which again helps to soften the scapula, as Mel mentioned. I will continually find ways to help relate what we're doing to the shoulders. Stomach 36, just alongside the shin bone on the outside in the center of the muscle. I can also do spleen 9 at the same time, warming and softening both. And then as well, including that gallbladder 34 point, a little higher and further outside, just between the heads of the fibula and the tibia here. Keeping my shoulders soft, my spine straight, simply flexing from the hip joint. My neck is released. Don't allow tension to start creeping back into the upper body. Do your best to find a way to release these areas, even if you do them one at a time. It's perfectly okay to take longer than I do in this set. Allow your awareness to penetrate into that space inside the knee, feeling it warm and soften. Part of learning Qigong is learning how to let your mind soak into the tissues of your body. There's a point called stomach 38, and it is below stomach 36. It's on this muscle that runs next to the shin bone, the anterior tibialis. And if you were to divide the distance between the kneecap and your ankle bone on that side in half, there's a little spot there. You might find it to be like a bump or a slight cave. It's usually a slightly swollen spot that might feel tight to your fingers. And that is another point that is famous for treating a shoulder that feels stuck and cold and painful. Wonderful spot. And so if you'd like to, when you're done softening this area of your calf, easing down the Achilles, you can soften the whole line of this. And if you're focusing on the shoulders, you can allow your fingers to settle into this spot in the center. It's in the very center of the muscle, this little thin band of muscle for most people. And if you're not sure how to find it, you can grab a tape measure and divide the distance in half. My fingers just know how to find it after years of practice. But if you get in there and gently ease that point open, it doesn't have to require a lot of pressure. Just let the weight of your hands soften that point and continually release your shoulders as you're doing it. And that can be very helpful for tight and painful shoulder joint. This is one of those points that acupuncturists and Chinese medicine theorists can't quite figure out why this is good for the shoulder. We can sort of make something up and say, well, this connects to this, which connects to that. But really, for the most part, it doesn't make sense why this would be good for the shoulder. It's just that over thousands of years of treatment, people have noticed, this seems to be pretty helpful for that. And so we do it. Ours is not to wonder why. Ours is to massage the thigh. I think that's how it went. And softening that point above the ankle, spleen 6. Warm and soft. And if for you it's particularly tender, maybe spend extra time on that point. If your shoulders are frozen because of generalized tension throughout your body, frustration, that kind of thing, then spend extra time on this liver 3 point between these two tendons here. Not specific for the shoulders, but helping to relieve that tendency of a gripped nervous system to end up tightening the shoulders. Softening the center of the calf. I was getting more feedback from somebody about how this point is no longer painful for them, which is wonderful, because it started out very painful for them. It's only taken a month, shifting dramatically, because that's symbolic than more of simple pain receptors. Everything begins to open. Softening this entire line of musculature, or if you like, again, stomach 38, here just in the center of the musculature. Very gentle pressure, just enough to open, to stimulate and release this fascial line. Make certain that your shoulders are soft while you do it. You can even roll your shoulders a little bit to help continually open them. This is something that you'd like to work on. Waking up your feet. And this time, to be a better example for people, I'll sit on a little chair. It can be useful to have your hips a little bit higher off of the ground. This might take some of the pressure off of your lower back. Probably, realistically, should be even higher than this. Softening around. And just like when we created this movement for the arms, please do manage to keep the shoulders soft. You might follow the wisdom of Steph and Mel and doing fewer if you find them tightening your body. At some point, things get easier, and it's easier to increase the number of repetitions for something. But until then, knowing when enough is enough for your body and mind is a beautiful practice. Remember that you're not stretching. You're simply softening. Your legs soften this way. Your thighs are perfectly relaxed. Don't grip your quads. And your spine is lengthening upward. Your neck lengthens. Your shoulders are soft. Gentle circles, allowing the movement to reach all the way up here beneath your sitting bones. Keeping your legs soft, no tension in your legs or your feet, just engaging your body, your hips, your waist, eventually your dantian. Lengthening the kidney channel, allowing your feet to grip slightly, but trying not to use tension. Instead, lengthening your feet around if that's possible for you. Soft all the way to the back, lengthening your spine, keeping your shoulders soft, crown of the head floating upward, and then lengthening around the circle this way so that you are not closing toward your hips and legs. Maintaining the length of your spine, the softness of your breath, the ease in your shoulders and your neck. Only as far as feels comfortable. Little fingers turn up, palms turn out as you gently close your hands without tightening your fists. That will cause shoulder tension if you grip with your fists. Softening your spine, your lower back and waist in particular. Softening your shoulders. You're not gripping and holding here. This is simply keeping your arms from flailing around. If you decide to lie down, remember to support your body in whatever ways are needed. Perhaps a pillow or a bolster beneath your knees, under your head, maybe under your lower back or your elbows. You might even choose to put your legs up on a chair. Find a way to be comfortable. The goal here is simply to allow your whole body to release, open. Your shoulders are soft. allow your awareness to spread out through your whole body. When you notice your mind wandering away, simply soften it slightly, letting go of the distractions, letting it come back into your own body, feeling all of those layers of tissue that you've been working on releasing. Letting go of your breath and allowing the weight of your body to sink into the floor or the mattress or wherever you're lying. And at some point when you're ready, you can begin getting some movement through your fingers and your toes. And then if you'd like, you can sit up in whatever manner is safe for your body. Maybe I'll use Mel's little meditation cushion thing here. Pretty nice. Pausing for a moment to allow your whole body to settle. Again, allowing your awareness to rest in the space between your navel and your spine, that middle danxian. And then allow your awareness to spread through your whole body, from your fingers to your toes. And then it continues to open and to spread out beyond the surface of your body into the space around you, so that you have an anchor in the center, but also an openness to the world around you, both at the same moment, both becoming one kind of awareness, settled and grounded.